it's Avery here, and I wanted to share a bit about my forthcoming book with C&T Publishing called Crewel Embroidery Handy Pocket Guide. So I've got some of the samples from the book to show you, some of the embroideries that you can make with the book. First of all, here is the clamshell pillow, which is on the cover. And this is a great way of trying out so many different stitches. You get a whole row of each stitch in different colours, filling up these clamshell shapes. I'm also a quilter, so a lot of the items in the book are inspired by quilting as well as embroidery. I like to mix them together. So instead of fabric, you're creating your own little patterned fabric really with these clamshells. So everything in the book is a sampler, which means that we take different shapes and we fill them with the different stitches. So in fact, the first one in the book is the doodle hoop. This is just a great colouring in idea, basically. Taking your pencil for a walk and creating a little doodle, and within it, all these different shapes that you can fill with the different stitches that you're shown how to do in the book, and then lovely colours as well. And I'm going to just put it up a bit closer here so you can see the lovely texture you get. So crewel just means embroidery with wool, and the wool has this lovely matte texture and a slightly raised edge to it against cotton. Also, it fills really well because you can't see the individual strands the way you can with cotton, so it's very forgiving for a beginner. And it just gives you this lovely texture to work with using all these knots and chain stitch and seed stitch. I've got all sorts going on in here, satin stitch, running stitch. And you just get this really lovely effect, quite modern. Next I've got the mandala hoop. So this is just less colours, less stitches, but this lovely texture, these lovely little stripy areas here. This is both very meditational to look at and also to stitch. And then finally, I've got a new one to show you. So there's a bubble hoop in the book, which has all been created with blues and greens to inspire you to think about water. And I thought I'd try a new version with all pinks and oranges and purples and reds, which I'm going to call Pink Fizz. So I'm loving working on this at the moment. And a little tip for you. When you're working on something like this, you could just follow exactly what I've done in the book, which is, I've set out exact colours and different stitches for each of these shapes. You could just follow that religiously, but it's quite fun to just choose your own colours and choose your own stitches and just decide as you go along. But then there's a lot of decisions to be made, and every time you start a new little bubble, you've got to decide which colour and which stitch to put there. And so what I tend to do is I just choose one strand. Often I'm using double strands of threads with this, but just enough for one strand of a different colour. And as you can see here with this one here, I've created that chain stitch and filled it up until I've run out of that strand, and then I've left it and gone on to the next one. So some of the strands will fill up some of the smaller areas in total, but there's quite a few I've got to go back to and fill up later. But what that means is that once I've got everything to that stage, I've got no more decisions to make, and I can just relax and just fill in all those extra areas. So that's how I like to stitch with these, just kind of starting off with one strand, get going, that's that decision made, move on to the next one, and then finish everything off later. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little journey through some of the items in the book. There's also a honeycomb hoop, which I don't have here. Hopefully I'll get to recreate that too. And I really hope you look forward to making some of these projects for yourself and having fun with crewel embroidery.